Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Huck. Today we're talking about my 2026 TBR Clear Out Project. TBR Clear Out Project, something that I do every few years to just refresh my TBR and get things off of my TBR so that it is staying aligned with my interests and my taste. Essentially what I am doing is taking the books that have been on my physical TBR the longest, and throughout the year I just make a point of getting to them to get them off my TBR, and it doesn't matter how they come off. I can read them, I can DNF them, I can admit to myself I'm never gonna read this book and just unhaul it. But one way or another, I want to make a decision about all of these books. Now, I did this in 2025. I actually did 2 rounds of it because the original TBR that I set for myself for the year, I completed in the first 6 months of 2025, which was mostly possible because there ended up just being a lot of DNFs, so I was able to get through things pretty quickly. So not the greatest success in terms of like completion rate or ratings, but still a success in terms of I made decisions and those books came off my TBR, and that's what counts. So I finished that in the first 6 months of the year, and then I decided to do a bonus round and do it again in the second half of the year. And I just feel very accomplished and I kind of want to keep going. Now for me, my goal is not to like zero out my TBR and have no physical TBR. I like having a small physical TBR, you know, or at least small maybe by booktube standards. I like having a TBR that's probably somewhere between like 30 to 60 books. So I feel like I have some variety. There are things at my fingertips that I can choose from, but it's not too overwhelming. I have found that that's kind of the sweet spot for me. However, I also want to make sure that I am actually getting to the books that are on my shelf, the things that I've been excited about at one point or another. And sometimes there are books that, like, no matter how excited I was about them at some point, for whatever reason, I just put them off. So that's why we're doing this. This time around, we are getting to the books that have been on my TBR since 2023 and 2024. And actually, only 3 of these books are from 2024 because I bought so few books that year that I really didn't have a lot to like roll over from one year to the next. Also, there is one book that I did buy in 2023 but will not be on my TBR Clear Out Project because I am not planning to read it until later, which is The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi by S.A. Chakraborty. This one I am planning to hang on to, and I want to just, I want to binge the whole series. And so I bought the first book to kind of show support and enthusiasm for the series, but I am not planning to read it until the full series is out, so it's not being included on this TBR, even though I did technically buy it in 2023. But I have 10 books from 23 and 24. We're gonna go through all of them, and we're going to go through them in order of the books I am least excited about, least interested in, to the book I am most interested in. And we'll see, you know, at the end of the year, how my actual ratings line up with my initial interest. But let's get into it. Starting at the very bottom, the book I am least interested in is Solaris by Stanislaw Lem. This is a kind of classic sci-fi. This is one that I had picked up because there was a point when I was trying to really get more into sci-fi. I was doing a lot of research about different kinds of sci-fi, and like I was looking for books with certain tropes that have been successful for me in the past, and this is a book that has come up a few times on different lists for different you know, tropes or types of sci-fi that I thought maybe would be successful for me. For example, I think this came up on a list of like sci-fi about memory, and memory is a theme that I love in books. So that is what has kind of initially drawn me to this, but since picking it up, a few things have happened. One is, I think I've kind of become less invested in my quest to find sci-fi that I love. I am still interested in sci-fi. I've always picked up sci-fi here and there, but I just am like less interested in it. I think at a certain point I think I have to kind of accept that maybe sci-fi is just not gonna be like a big genre for me, and it is more so something I can dabble in on a rare occasion. But also I have heard since getting this that, you know, maybe I should have known this because it is a more classic sci-fi, that those tend to be less character driven, more focused on just the ideas. And I do love interesting ideas and a good theme, but I do also really need characters in books, and so I am not so sure how this one's going to go for me. So my excitement for it has kind of waned. Next, coming in at number 9 is Song of the Huntress by Lucy Holland. Now, this might be a surprise. You might think, wow, why would this be so low? Because it is Celtic historical fantasy, which is my favorite subgenre, and also an author that I've read and enjoyed before. Let me tell you, the reason that this is low is because I did actually start this at one point, and apparently I got this far into it. I got about a quarter of the way in and I was very bored, and I decided to put it down. And now I do feel like could have just been that I wasn't in the mood for it at the time. Maybe I just wasn't in the headspace to read this. I don't know. And because of those other factors, the fact that I, you know, have liked this author in the past, it is a subgenre that I love, I didn't fully DNF it. I just put it down to come back to later. But I have kind of lost some enthusiasm because I was not enjoying it very much the first time I tried it. So I'm gonna give it another shot, and maybe I will try it as an audiobook and see if that works better for me. Then coming in at number 8 is Starborn by Lucy Hounsome, who is the same author as Lucy Holland. She just used a different name. I think this is YA, and then when she started publishing adult, she used a different last name. But I got this after reading Sister Song and enjoying that, and I at the time didn't have other books to read from her, and so I decided to pick up one of her backlist books, and I just haven't gotten to it. And I don't know, I think this one, I don't have a strong reason. It's mostly just that I kind of forget about it and my interest has kind of waned, and maybe a little bit of my apathy from this book has rubbed off on this one, which is maybe not fair to the book, but it is possible that happened. Number 7 is Inanna by Emily W. Wilson. No, Emily H. Wilson. And this is a book that I bought kind of as an impulse buy, partially because it has such a beautiful cover, but mostly because this is a mythology retelling of a character from Gilgamesh, which, like, you don't see a lot of Gilgamesh retellings out there, and that just intrigued me so much. I can maybe think of one other book that I have seen genuinely like reference Gilgamesh. It is an ancient epic. I think it might be like one of the oldest, or maybe the oldest, like epic story that we have documented. I believe it's a Mesopotamian story. But I read Gilgamesh when I was in like middle school. I remember drawing a picture of one of the monsters that they fought, but I think I just sort of keep forgetting that I have this book. It's not one that I guess has really stuck in my mind, even though it does have kind of a unique premise in its retelling of Gilgamesh, which is exciting. So I am actually genuinely very excited to get to this one, but I think that it just is kind of lower on my list because I keep forgetting about it. And coming in at number 6 is The Swan Maiden by Jules Watson. Jules Watson wrote The White Mare, the Dalriada trilogy, which is a historical fiction series set in Scotland, and I really enjoyed at least the first two books in that series, and so from reading that series I just was very intrigued by her other work. This is very different. I think it is a standalone YA fairy tale retelling, so it may be very different from what I've read from her before, but I am just really curious to read something else from this author because I have enjoyed other things by her. All right, we are getting into the top 5 of most interesting books on this TBR, and number 5 and number 4 go together because they are part of the same series, which is Dreaming the Hound and Dreaming the Serpent Spear. These are books 3 and 4 in the Boudica series by Amanda Scott, which is a historical fiction series set in Iron Age Ireland, following Boudica or Boudica. I never know how to say her name. But I read the first 2 books in this series. I've enjoyed them. I really liked the first book. The second one was a little bit more mixed for me, but I am really excited about the rest of the series, which is why I got the next 2 books. I do plan on completing this series, although these are fairly chunky. This one actually is longer. This book is longer than this book, but this one has thinner pages, I think, so it looks skinnier. But these are pretty chunky books, which is most of the reason why I have not continued on with the series, but I really want to finish it, so I am really excited to get back into this. And now our top 3, number 3 being Shaman's Crossing by Robin Hobb. This is the first book in the Soldier Son trilogy, so this is a trilogy that is not related to the realm of the Elderlings. It seems to me that in general many people don't seem to like this trilogy very much, but I am still interested in it. I have kind of a mixed relationship with Robin Hobb's work. I generally really enjoy her books. I like her writing a lot. I think her characterization is so interesting and great to read. I enjoyed the world of the realm of the Elderlings. Like, there are so many things about it that I liked. There are elements of the way that she plots her stories that are not really for me. But overall, I enjoy her books, and so I am still really interested in reading something else from her. And I wonder if, you know, I may be a little more lenient on this series because my feelings about the realm of the Elderlings, while generally positive, are more mixed. So coming into this unrelated series, my expectations might be a little bit different than people who hold the realm of the Elderlings as like an all-time favorite series. We'll see. You know, I am excited to read something else from her because I just enjoy her writing style a lot and her characterization. And that's really what I look for in a book, is good writing, good characterization. Number 2 is The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. And this book, I have just heard such incredible things about it. I've also heard how unique and creative the story structure is in this, which I am really intrigued by. I actually am thinking of reading this as an audiobook because I've heard that it's very much based on like oral tradition of storytelling. So I feel like an audiobook would just work really well. If you have read the audio or listened to the audiobook for this, let me know if it's good. I feel like this one's high up on my list, maybe mostly because of all of the hype. Like, it is something I'm genuinely interested in, but there's also so much hype around it that kind of bumped it up. And then finally we have reached our number 1 spot, which is Le Fay by Sophie Keach. This is the second book in the Morgan Le Fay trilogy. I read Morgan Is My Name, the first book, in 2024. One of my favorite books of the year. I absolutely loved it. And I was planning on reading this in 2025, and then I realized, you know what, I'm gonna hold on to it and wait to read it in 2026 when the third book comes out, so I can just binge the series, and truly that is my plan. I am planning to reread the first book and then binge the second and third book when the third one comes out in April, I think. So this I am so excited about. I loved the first book so much, and this is one that I have only put off because I am so excited about it and I want to read it like as part of the full trilogy for like peak reading experience. So that is my TBR Clear Out Project, ranked from least to most excited to read. Please let me know if you have read any of these books, if you think that any of these books should move up in my estimation. I would love to know, and maybe I will bump them. But thank you all for watching, and until next time, bye!